I know that you must have an interest in trees or you probably wouldn't be here. We're going to read a proclamation. Arbor Day is coming soon, and we thought that there would be no better place to read that proclamation than amongst a group of people who are interested in trees. So Jane Gregory is going to go ahead and read the proclamation.
This is so exciting. So this is a proclamation from the Office of Orange County Mayor, and it's signed by Teresa Jacobs. So I'm reading it as if I'm the mayor, is how these work, right? So whereas since 1872, Arbor Day has been observed throughout the United States and around the world by promoting tree plantings and commemorating the importance of the urban tree canopy and natural forests. And whereas Orange County continues to be a certified Tree City USA community, committed to sustaining and enhancing its urban tree canopy by enacting a tree protection ordinance, dedication of funds, and administering neighborhood grant programs that help expand the urban forest. And whereas this year Orange County will celebrate Arbor Day, a holiday dedicated to the planting of and caring for trees, by promoting urban tree plantings and also completing an urban tree inventory and analysis to quantify the significant economic benefits and ecological services provided by our urban forest. And whereas trees clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, reduce the erosion of precious topsoil, moderate the temperature, cut cooling costs, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas in 2017, the Florida Forest Service funded an assessment of Orange County's urban forest and made recommendations for using trees to enhance stormwater management. And whereas planting trees throughout the community increases property values, enhances the economic vitality of business areas, and beautifies our neighborhoods by making Orange County a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Now, therefore, I, Teresa Jacobs, by virtue of the authority vested in me as Orange County Mayor, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 27th, 2018 as Arbor Day 2018 in Orange County, Florida. And I call upon all citizens to plant trees and support efforts to protect and nurture the environment for the well-being of current and future generations. Done and ordered this 22nd day of February 2018.
Hold on, we need a photo. Come on back. Jane, come on back. Hold up the proclamation. Yeah, we have rules. No, you're Turn. We have rules. Good. Thank you.
So much.
Mayor Gregory.
Thank you so much, Jane. And it's really appropriate that she would read a proclamation that was signed by Mayor Jacobs, because Mayor Jacobs has championed the Our Home for Life sustainability plan that the Board of County Commissioners accepted in 2014. And one of those strategies is to promote urban forestry and expand our urban tree canopy. And so this study is really an important part of doing all that. So I want to welcome each of you. You're all very distinguished guests, and we're thankful for that you're here. But I did want to recognize a few folks in the audience who are representing some of our commissioners, and we're so glad that they could be here today. So we've got Stacy Van Camp representing District 2 from Commissioner Beck's office. We've got 2 aides from Commissioner Clark's office in District 3, Mercedes Fonseca. And from District 5, Commissioner Benitez's office, we have Victoria Matera. And also, we're here because we got this opportunity through a grant from the Florida Forest Service. So it's really important that we recognize them. And so I'm so glad that Dana Sussman here is from the Orlando District Office of the Florida Forest Service. And Dana's been a member of our Technical Review Committee. And also I want to recognize Daisy Morales from the Soil and Water Conservation District. So thank you for being here. And now, most importantly, I'm going to recognize our speakers. And I could spend a lot of time telling you about them, and it would be very impressive. But I think it's going to be more impressive if you hear what they have to say, and rather than me talking about them. But I want to thank them because Karen Firehawk, the Executive Director of the Green Infrastructure Center, or GIC as we affectionately call it, and Chris McCormick, who's been the project manager all along. They had to do this project on a very compressed time schedule for Orange County, and we're the first ones, I think, that are kind of winding it up. And so we're just really grateful for the collaboration with them. And without much further ado then, what I want to do is turn it over to them so they can tell you about the trees and stormwater study. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
thanks for having us. The format for this evening is we're going to give you an uncharacteristically brief presentation for ourselves, because we could talk for days. And so we want to give you some time to go back out and give us other comments. So as we're speaking, if you think, oh, I wish I would have told them that when I was in the reception area, we still have time at the end for you to do that. Chris is also going to go through some recommendations. We have a long list of potential things the county could do. Just kind of pulled out the top ones, and you get to vote. So we get a little voting, and in a positive way. Like, you'll all find something you like. You don't have to worry about, I don't like any of these candidates. You'll actually, very pleasant voting will ensue. We'll also have some time for questions at the end of the presentation, but we'll leave that to 3 or 4 questions, because we don't want you to all be trapped in this room. If you have other questions at the end, past the 3 or 4, we'll have you give them out. Now I'm going to turn off the light, just to help with seeing the screen, but please do not go to sleep. Or at least don't snore loudly. Okay. It's very dark, but hopefully it's still okay. All right. So we're going to give you an overview of the project. I know some of you are repeats. You've come before, so you know it. Others are new, so we're going to little review session. We're going to talk about trees as green infrastructure. We're going to talk about some of the data produced during the project, and we wanted to show you endless spreadsheets, but the county said no, that would not be exciting. But we do have a lot of spreadsheets. And then we'll talk about our codes and ordinances review that we did and why we did that and some of the findings, and then go back and get more input from you guys. All right, so this is a pilot project, and what does that mean? That means that it's a test case. So one of the first questions we often get is, can you show me other communities that have done this exact same thing? And the answer is no, because this is a test. We're testing this across 11 cities in 6 states. So all across the South, we are testing how to look at whether, how trees take up stormwater, what their benefits are, how well treated the communities are, and then giving recommendations on what can be done. And so this is funded by the U.S. Forest Service, because they think it's a very innovative project. And then they gave the grants to each of the states. We helped write the proposal to the Forest Service, so that's why we're part of this. And then we have different localities participating. So in Florida, you guys are actually the first. In fact, you're the first in the South. Yay, you're first. Orange County's first. So you're the first to be finished. It's a little bit stressful because we're trying to finish you guys off first. But in Florida, the other localities are Miami Beach, where we were this morning. So very different kind of community, and also Jacksonville. So as you can see, they're really different communities, and that's on purpose. We want to learn different things, and so a community like Jacksonville could find another community and they could learn from them. Another county in Florida could learn from Orange County, etc. Okay. So the project partners, we are a nonprofit. You can look us up online. I'm not going to really talk about us tonight, but we are a not-for-profit. We do mapping, design, and planning. We build habitat models for the entire United States. There's one online. We also do them for states. We also do them for localities. And so we're a lot of mapping, modeling, planning, really trying to teach people how they can use their natural resources to have livable communities. The Florida Forest Service is a key partner in this project. We work very closely with them. And then, of course, Orange County. Our goal for the project primarily is to look at how trees help us manage our stormwater. And stormwater is basically the rain that falls, and naturally rain falls, but the question is, when we have a developed environment, it runs off the land in different patterns. So in a nice vegetated forest area, the rain can soak in quite easily. As you guys know, when we pave the landscape, we have more runoff, we have more flooding, we have more challenges. So we are trying to help communities use their urban forests more strategically to help soak up their water. Right? So as Orange County has developed, we've lost some trees. So the question is, how do we want to be strategic about how we manage our urban forests in the future? Where can we put trees back? So the work that this project entailed was first creating a map. So you guys saw the maps out there of what kind of tree canopy you currently have. I'm going to talk about that. We created a little tool to calculate how much water the trees are soaking up for each of the major drainage basins in Orange County. We then created recommendations, and then we are sharing the work. So there is a case booklet It's actually been typeset, and we're just doing the final edits on that. So that will be available online. You all can get a copy of the full report of this project. So just to stop for a moment, I want to give a little bit of definition here. What we're talking about when we're talking about using trees for stormwater management, we're really thinking of trees as our green infrastructure. So just a lesson 101, this is gray infrastructure on the left side. Roads, power lines, sidewalks, all of that stuff you need for civil society. And then on the other side, it's the other side of the coin, the green infrastructure, literally the green stuff. Because these trees, your canopy, is also providing services for you. And the proclamation, I couldn't say it better than that. You heard a lot of the values. Trees provide oxygen. I quite enjoy oxygen. They soak volatile organic compounds out of the air, so they actually clean your air. But one fun fact we often don't hear about is trees make you nicer. You guys are all really nice, right? Yes, because you like trees. So it turns out we've studied mood changes, metabolic rates, heart rates, all different things. And if you are in a bad mood or you're not feeling well, seeing a tree can actually improve your mental state and your physical state. So what we're thinking about too as we think about our canopy is how well connected is the landscape. And so we made this little cartoon. Some of you have seen this before, but essentially we have 3 developments next to each other. Each saves some green space, and that's good, but the green space does not connect. So if we think about it at a larger scale, if we start looking at the entire county, we can start to think about how we might maintain some of that connectivity. It might be that this area is a park or other open space. Maybe you have moderate development in the middle and more intense development at the other development where we have more room to grow. So as I said, trees are the original and best green infrastructure, and people have studied how much water trees soak up. So there's people actually to the level of having rainfall events and then looking at how much water is in the roots, how much is in the trunk, how much the tree is evapotranspiring. And it turns out that one tree, depending on its size and the species, can soak up anywhere from 760 gallons to about 4,000 gallons per year per tree. So a great big live oak, that's going to be more your 4,000 gallon jobby, or a small crab apple or something, that's not much taller than me might be your 760 gallon tree. So we want to put as big a tree as possible into the landscape that we can fit. If we can't fit a big tree, then a medium tree. If we can't fit a medium tree, then a small tree, because they're still providing benefits. But if you multiply, if I look out the window and I think about, don't look out there, but all the trees that are out there, you can start to realize that it has a tremendous impact. And that does affect how much runoff water you're having, how much flooding that you're having. So trees have lots of benefits. We wrote a whole book on this. David, again, would not let us tell us our whole book, so just one slide. I'm picking on him, but we're trying to be brief. So trees clean the air, we talked about that. Well-being and mental health. Even in hospitals, people heal up to 30% faster when they can see or access green. So hospitals are starting to put green spaces, arboretums. We've built some of those. Less crime occurs near trees. People often say we don't want to have trees because people will hide behind them and jump out and get you. It turns out, though, that actually crime rates are lower in well-treed communities. People exercise if they can access green where they live or work, and so especially as people are wanting to age in place, more people are wanting to grow older in their own home and not go to assisted living or rest home. So the more we can have that green space where they live, the higher their quality of life. And then this is one of my favorite. This is actually a woman in Winter Park down there. She said we could take her picture. She was like, I'm shopping and having fun with the trees. People shop longer and pay up to about 12% more in well-treed shopping districts. And why do we bring that statistic to you? Well, oftentimes we'd say trees are expensive, or we have to care for them, they cost money to maintain, but they'll pay you back. So if you spend the money and give proper planting areas to trees in your commercial districts, you'll get that money back in spades in property tax and sales tax. And then companies, especially those that have a well-paid and skilled workforce, place a strong importance on the green of the local environment. So while we are sitting in one of the fastest growing regions in Florida right now, to be competitive, to continue to have that high quality of life, to continue to attract the kind of jobs that you want, the greener you are, the better kinds of companies, the more companies you'll be able to attract. And there's just a little graphic. little, sort of water flow 101 diagram, but basically what we're able to model is how much water the crown of the tree is capturing. So about 20% of the annual rainfall or more is retained in the crown of the tree. Then you have the water going down the trunk and into the ground. The roots are also soaking up a tremendous amount of water, and those roots are actually creating pore spaces, more channels for water to get into the ground. So tree roots help you actually break up some of our urban soil. And then it increases the infiltration capacity of the soil. All right, so I had to sneak a graph in here because I'm a nerd. But basically what this is showing you is that if you have this is a little, I drew this, it's not very good, but here we have stream flow and time. And so what this is showing you is that in a paved watershed, it rains, the water runs off quickly, and so your storm flows peak sooner and with more velocity and volume. In a vegetated watershed, it rains, the water comes up, and it goes down more gradually. So your rainfall events are more gentle, less erosion, less flooding. And then this is just the Captain Obvious bar chart here, but it's showing you in a forested watershed. This is the amount of you retain in a parking lot. You have a lot more runoff if you have less green. Okay, so as we look at these large parking lots, the way that we think about it is how could we retrofit that parking lot? How could we actually perhaps put more trees in there, perhaps some permeable pavement? What are the things we could do to help parking lots to soak up more water? So for example, we visited a Walmart that has some permeable spaces. They actually have spaces that are infiltrating water instead of running off. But there's only a handful of them. So we asked, why not more of that parking lot? Why couldn't we have more like that? So one quick statistic, 1 acre of pavement releases 36 times more runoff than a forest. So that is an important statistic. Or if it rained 1 inch, if you had an acre of forest, about 750 gallons would run off a parking lot, 27,000 gallons. So that just gives you a sort of staggering statistic for what happens when we pave our landscape. And so we're not suggesting everyone leaves Orange County, but we're saying we can find places to poke holes in that urban landscape and put trees back. And we can also try to pave less as we develop, have a smaller footprint. So how do we figure out how much canopy we have in Orange County? We use satellite imagery. So somebody asked me today, do you actually ever have to go outside? Don't you just sit in your computers looking at the satellites? I said, well, sometimes when we look at a satellite image and it shows something weird, we have to go out in Orange County and see what that thing was, because it's not always perfect. But we basically are taking an image of the landscape, and then we're using a little computer software program and humans to say, this is the reflectivity of this imagery. This means that's a tree. So there's different spectral reflectivity of grass versus tree. Even though they're both green, they actually give a different spectral image. And so we can then actually get to the point where we can say that's bare earth, that's tree, that's building, that's road, this is turf. And that's how we then can get those areas to calculate how much canopy you have in the county. All right, and so looking at the county, we didn't count in our denominator, if anyone remembers math, we didn't count lakes as part of our denominator because we're not putting a tree in the middle of the lake. So we took out water, and then to calculate how much you have, we've got forested wetlands about 17.6%, forested open space 13.6%, trees 19.25%. So we add all of this together to get your canopy. So about 50.7% of the county is treed. The other thing you need to keep in mind, though, is that is not uniform, right? You guys know that some areas have lots of trees, some areas have less. And so we can look at the different drainage basins and see which ones have more trees, which ones could have more trees, which ones are losing their trees. And so one question we got in the past was, well, how does Orange County compare? What are some of the other areas people might be familiar with? So for example, Winter Garden, 35%. The city of Orlando, 35%. That's still pretty good. Bay Lake, really high, 63%. Oakland, 48%. So these statistics kind of just give you a little bit of a flavor of how you're doing. And then looking across the watersheds, what I was talking about. So we've modeled canopy by the drainage basins. So these are sort of like, you know, different ones. So Boggy Creek has about 33% canopy, Little Econ River 45%. Here's a big one, St. John's River is still pretty well vegetated at almost 62%. And so that is an important statistic that we can then use to model how much water are those trees soaking up. We also have looked at streets. How green are your streets? So you guys, some of you probably saw that map out in the lobby. And this is helpful to know if you are planning things like we want to walk to the park, we want to walk to school, or we want to create bike lanes through here. Is that a pleasant bike ride? Or if this is a new commercial district or an area we're trying to market, how green is it? And then we're also looking at possible planting areas. So some of you guys saw the maps out in the lobby where we had orange. Those are areas we found where more trees could be fitted. Now, an important distinction, of course, we didn't distinguish between public or private property. So generally, as a rule of thumb, and I didn't model this for Orange County, but as a rule of thumb, about 80% of the land is usually private and 20% is public. So most of the tree solutions, most of the gains that we might see in the county will be on private land. Right? So it actually is up to everyone to try to get their neighborhoods excited about planting trees, to get your HOA association interested in maintaining and taking care of trees. The larger the tree you have, the more benefits you have.